YouTube! Welcome to Fred's Full Throttle. It's been 2 weeks since I talked about the Z06, so I figured I should catch up a little bit, especially since there's been a little bit more news out there. However, I want to preface this a bit and say that I'm going to be focusing more on the feel and experience of the car and less on the production, company news, and allocations. Sure, there's been a bunch of developments on that side of the house, but to be honest, there isn't actually that much we can read into on those things, and not much insightful analysis that I can do. Also, since there are 100 other outlets carrying all those details, I'll leave it to one of those to cover it better than I can. But the basic developments are, GM is releasing more allocations of the Z06 for a January build timeframe. GM's Mark Roos again teased that in 2024 there's going to be 2 new Corvette variants unveiled, which are expected to be the E-Ray and the ZR1. And then lastly, the Z06 is in the running for Motor Trend's Performance Car of the Year. Alright, that took about all the time I wanted to spend on that stuff, so definitely check out other outlets if you really want to learn more about those headlines. Now on to what I want to cover. Real quick, before we get into the meat and potatoes, I wanted to mention that I was pleasantly surprised by the reception of my last video on why don't all car enthusiasts love motorcycles. The feedback and the reception was great, and it sounded like it was pretty refreshing for many to branch out a little bit and just talk about things that are gearhead related and not just Z06 related. Many of you shared your own stories about your own motorcycles and experiences, and it sounded like many could relate to what I was saying, both for loving and enjoying bikes and for several of the reasons I gave to eventually hang up your leathers. I'm glad most of you enjoyed it. I have some other interesting things coming soon for the channel, so please stay tuned. Alright, so on to the Z06. First, I wanted to talk about a story that broke on Mid-Engine Corvette Forum as posted by user John006. You see, John006 is one of those first lucky reservation holders to get a Z06 and actually start sharing his thoughts and impressions of the car. He's only about 500 miles in, but he already shared a few really great impressions. The first one that stood out to me was the sound of the car. He points out that the car is loud, especially at startup, but he hasn't found it to be droning or burdensome. Having heard the Z06 in person, I can vouch for how loud the startups are, and I can only imagine that that's amplified when you're near or in the car. Even better though, it sounds like the spectacle of the engine doesn't wear off. As also noted by various publications, the sound of the car is sheer joy. The fast idle, the growl under light RPM, and the snaps and crackles when you downshift. This car is a rolling special occasion at all times, and from the sound of it, it draws quite a bit of attention. I don't think there is a way to drive the car inconspicuously, and honestly, I think that's great. With a car like this, you're signing up for all that theater, the drama, and the attention, which are all trappings of it being a very track-focused car. Sure, you can throw some golf bags in if you want, but you can do that with any car. This is a car with the ability to set fast laps or shred on backcountry roads, and part of the fun is a car that brings the thunder with it. Another thing that John006 pointed out was that there was no vibration at all in the car. I've seen more than a few internet commenters voicing their concerns about the engine shaking itself apart, making the interior rattle, and buzzing your teeth fillings out. John006 thankfully puts that to rest immediately, and I would say fairly conclusively. If you don't notice even a whiff of vibration in the first 500 miles, then I think it's fairly safe to say that it's not going to be an issue. What's further, he said that he has a friend who he let drive it who already owns a C7 Z06, and his friend was expecting and looking for that vibration. None was found, and they both came away impressed. If nothing else, I enjoy that this just carte blanche shuts down internet whiners who want the car to fail. Chalk up 1 point for GM engineering. Now there was one downside worth mentioning, though it should come as no surprise. This car, it's thirsty. John006 gave some numbers on his first 2.25 tanks of gas, as well as said that his best observed fuel average over 50 miles was 21.6 miles per gallon. With the other info he gave, I averaged it out to about 250 miles per tank of gas. Additionally, with an 18.5 gallon tank, this means that the car is averaging somewhere around 13.5 miles per gallon through his driving. Critically, this is also before the car is fully broken in and before he can really get heavy on the throttle. Not a surprise though, and there's a reason that this car has the gas guzzler tax added on. One thing I especially like about John006's car is that it's a fairly standard car, without the Z07 package, without the added aero, and I think it looks fantastic in Elkhart Lake blue metallic paint on silver forged Spider wheels. Sleek and elegant, I really like it. John, if you're out there watching this, congrats on the car and thanks for sharing the impressions. I hope to see more pictures and feedback in the future. A lot of us are living vicariously through stuff like this, so keep it coming. Today's other story that I want to talk about is about a specific YouTuber who recently got their own Z06. Not me. Taking a step back from the car for a second though, YouTubers can be a pretty weird bunch. Frequently chasing views, trying to one-up each other, and always having catchy titles and thumbnails, some sensational hook to get you to click. It can frequently be a pretty toxic and superficial space. What's popular is what drives content, and it can change with a moment's notice. The bigger you get, the more you get approached for brand deals, advertising, and companies trying to get you trade some of your clout for the money to hawk products. It becomes harder to stay true to yourself and to your vision. Take most of the other Corvette-related channels out there, and from the titles and thumbnails, you can frequently see obvious clickbait as they pander for views. I get it. If that's your job or your only income, or you're chasing the dream of somehow making it big, then you will do anything to get the views. But that's also a double-edged sword, and the type and quality of the content you make can suffer, as we've seen. Speed Phenom, in my impression, has avoided those pitfalls despite getting pretty big, and more crucially, he's a real, genuine car enthusiast. A gearhead. He's actually a talented driver. What's more, he's someone who actually drives all of his cars and tries to share that experience with the viewer. Even more impressive, to me at least, is that Austin is the real deal. He's self-made. He didn't inherit a bunch of money. He actually earned all the money he has himself at 22 years old. Not only that, but he's a driver's driver. He focuses on the cars, the experience, the driving. He goes to the track, and he has actual driving skill. He's fast to boot. He's also approachable, friendly, and enthusiastic. That enthusiasm really comes out in his videos, especially about his new Z06. Austin was one of the lucky ones to get a Z06 pretty early, going for a fully loaded torch red coupe with a full Z07 package and the carbon fiber wheels. What separates Austin though a bit from every other YouTuber right now is what he did next. He drove the car. Taking delivery at Bowling Green, he shared what that experience was like. On the forums, people were excited to share pictures of him from all the webcams at the factory and in the museum as he took delivery. Then, once he departed with the car, he started doing all the things that we would all desperately love to do with our own car. He went to a dyno to see how much power the car makes. He weighed the car. He drove it across the country back to California. And then he took it half-mile drag racing at an airstrip attack event. In less than a week, his Z06 became the highest mileage Z06, the most widely viewed Z06, and most importantly, to me at least, the most enjoyed Z06. So a little more about his Z06. His recent videos give us more seat time, more exposure to the livability of the car, and the performance of the car, and honestly just what it's like to have. Sure, other YouTubers are starting to get theirs, but how many of them are going to go race it right away, take it to the track, dyno it, and actually do things that car enthusiasts do? Many are likely going to drive it for a few months, then flip it, out looking for whatever the next car of the moment is. Considering that Austin already owned a C8R, which he sold to make room for this car, as well as previously another C8 Stingray, I'm betting that he's not going to do that, and instead is going to show the rest of us exactly what that car can do. I, for one, am really excited to see what he does, and I applaud him for being a real gearhead. He's someone who actually put his money where his mouth is and brought all of us along for the ride. This is made ever more special because so many of us are stuck in limbo, languishing on some huge list, years away from getting the satisfaction of our own Z06. If you haven't already, I do encourage you to go check out some of his videos, both his current stuff and even some of the stuff in the past that explains who he is and how he got there. Austin, if you see this, I hope I get a chance to meet you and drive with you at some point. You're the kind of YouTuber that I get inspired by. Keep at it, man, and good luck. So with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, Fred out!